Hey everyone, this is Mike from Real Life Counseling, and we're going to continue my series on just different types of cognitive therapy and cognitive positive thinking, because learning all the top 10 techniques to do this and that is just completely overwhelming, and I would argue it's impossible to do. So the real change is, how do you change your mind? How do you change your thinking? And from that, your feelings and your behavior. So today we're going to talk about Martin Seligman, a psychologist that's a leader in the field of positive psychology. He got his start in the 60s and the 70s on helplessness. How do people and animals at first learn to be helpless? And what he discovered was that when you feel that nothing you do matters, no matter what you try to do, there's no effect. You learn to be helpless. You learn to give up because nothing you do matters. Everything you try, you can't do it. And you learn to be helpless, even if you're not. And when the situation changes and you can make a difference, you've already learned you can't, so you don't even try anymore. So even if you could make a difference later on, you've already given up. So from this, he developed the idea of if you can learn helplessness, can you learn to be more optimistic? And he discovered that you can. His two most famous books are Learned Optimism, and then a little later on, Authentic Happiness. And he's recently made a few more books, Flourish and The Hope Circuit. But the ideas are the same. That he discovered that people that tended to be more optimistic had an explanatory style about things that happened in life. Optimists and pessimists had two different explanatory styles. Optimists believed that negative events were temporary. Pessimists believed negative events were permanent. Optimists believed that negative events were limited in a particular area. Pessimists believed negative events were pervasive and impacting every part of their life. Optimists believed that negative events were external to them. It was something that they couldn't control. It was something beyond their ability to do anything about. Pessimists believed that it was internal. It was something wrong with them. That they did something to make something happen. So this was a pessimistic and optimistic explanatory style. Their view on good events was the exact opposite. That when good events happen, optimists believed it was permanent. So they believed that bad events were temporary, but good events were permanent. Optimists believed that good events were pervasive. So whereas optimists believed that bad events were limited, they believed good events were pervasive. And they also believed that whereas bad events were external to them, good events were internal. They did it. Pessimists had the exact opposite. Good events were temporary, where bad events were permanent. Good events were limited, and bad events were pervasive. Good events were external, but negative events were internal. Completely different explanatory styles for life events. And the idea that with cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, you could learn to change your explanatory style from a pessimistic one to a more optimistic one. And he used the same techniques that cognitive behavioral therapy uses. Right? You realize that it's your thoughts about events that impact your feelings. If you have negative thoughts, if they're irrational, distorted, exaggerated, right? You have demandingness. You minimize the good and maximize the bad. You label. You reason emotionally. You all or nothing, black and white thinking, right? Generalization. You have shoulds. Things should be the way you want. All of those things. That's what you dispute. You dispute those, and using evidence, using the ABC method from Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck. So then he expanded on this. Then later on, Dr. Seligman said, well, you can increase your optimism. But what about happiness overall? How do you increase overall happiness? And he broke that down into three things. There's views about the past, views in the present, and views about the future. And here was his take on this. He said, look, when it comes to the past, there's certain things you can do to have a better feeling and thought about the past. One, stop ruminating about the past, right? We go on and on and on, and we ruminate about the past, and we usually ruminate about bad things, not the good things. So if you're going to ruminate, ruminate about the good things, not the bad things. So we need to stop ruminating. The second thing is having a sense of gratitude. For whatever it is we do have, cultivate a sense of gratitude about it. And then for things that you can change, try to develop as best you can a sense of forgiveness. There are some things that you can try to forget, but some things you can't, so try to forgive. So if you can forgive and forget, to whatever extent you can do it. If it's just that you try to have some sense of forgiveness, so it's this stop ruminating, develop a sense of gratitude, and try to forgive and forget where possible. Now, that's for dealing with the past. For preventing having bad sense about the future, for being more positive about the future, for being more optimistic, that's when you use the explanatory style. You use these cognitive behavioral techniques to stop worrying about everything that's going to happen and to view things in the future more positively. And then there's how do you deal with the present? And the present is what he said to basically be present in the present. Have a certain focus, be very mindful, be very attuned to what's going on in the moment, and to try to develop a sense of flow. A flow is when you're into something so deeply that you almost lose track of time. In fact, very often you don't even feel anything. You don't feel good or bad. You're just kind of in the moment. It's like if you've ever been online and you tell yourself you're going to be online for 5 minutes, and then 2 hours later you're still online and you don't realize how much time went by. You were in the flow. You didn't necessarily feel happy or sad. You were just in the flow. And he says the way you get that is when you utilize your strengths, your character strengths, that if you have a sense of empathy, courage, perseverance, those are the strengths and values that are core to you. And when you utilize your core values and strengths in any activity, you're more likely to be in the flow. Athletes and artists very often can be in the flow. And so doing those things will keep you grounded and happy and optimistic in the present. Not ruminating and showing gratitude will help you reflect better on the past, and having an optimistic explanatory style will help you be more optimistic about the future. So when you use all those things together, you should increase your happiness in a very genuine and authentic way. And that's where authentic happiness comes from. So it's a very intriguing idea. I'm going to be talking about some of his books later on, Flourish and The Hope Circuit, but I encourage you to read those books and a few others that he's written. So if you like this video, hit like. If you want to be a subscriber, please subscribe. And if you want notifications of new videos, please hit that bell icon, and feel free to leave any comment and I will respond. All right, I'll see you guys next time.